a minute right now. I'm just about to hit live stream here. I just need a second, and it's just setting it up right now.
I just let in Reggie and Kelly.
A minute right now. I'm just about to hit live stream. All right, so.
Oh, by the way, I just got word a 210 grievance has been filed by Blue Sky Timer.
I just allowed Blue Sky Timer to get it.
That just came through. I got
Came through.
All right.
directly from DOE.
Took you long enough, Daniela.
Are there any other council members that, oh, I see the blue sky.
Yeah, I'm going to use my phone to log in a moment. You can add the other login under my name to co-host when they join. Thank you.
Have I missed any council members?
Sorry, I kicked myself up by accident.
Okay. Where's
I just joined with my phone. Can you add me the phone one, the other
Sure.
as co-host? Thank you.
just one moment? All right, Kushik Das, I think you now co-host too, and Chen Kwok, I think you're a co-host as well. Hopefully I got every council member.
Is Gabriella with us?
Yes, she should be. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you were able to attend our town hall forum with the chancellor. And we will now begin our monthly March calendar meeting. As I said in the previous meeting, my name is Benjamin Morton. I'm the CECD2 president, and I welcome you here. And our recording secretary, Councilmember JD Lim Sim, can you please do roll call?
Yes, I'm taking attendance for the calendar meeting. Robin Broshi.
Here.
Kashi Das. Kush, I see you.
Here, sorry. And then thumbs
Daniela.
up.
Here.
Lupe.
Here.
Robin Kelleher. Chen Kwok. Ben Morton's here. Ushmanil.
Here.
I'm here. Leonard Silverman.
Here.
Lily Wu. Is Lily on? No. Gabriella Calabia.
Here.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we have a quorum to begin our meeting. All right. So the second item on our agenda is the proposed rules for the chat Zoom function in calendar meetings. And we have a public document that's available and should be linked on our website. Not Chen, Kushik Das, Councilmember Das, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I just shared. Did people see it as well? Yeah, I dug this out. I've not dug this out. We actually talked about most of these points 2 meetings ago. We were supposed to post it before the last one. That didn't happen. I don't know. I can only apologize. I don't know why that didn't. I revamped it based on other things that were discussed. I know Councilmember Lupe Hernandez did ask if she asked about this as well, if she could make it changes. I don't, Lupe, if you sent me an email, I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
You throw up, baby.
But yeah, the intent was to make it public. And also, if there's any comments, please, we're happy to add them in right now. I think I got everything, but again, I'll modify it and for the idea to vote on it before we proceed. I think that covers everything that we discussed at the end of last meeting. If we didn't, Lupe, Ushma, or anyone else, please let me know. Okay. Yeah, the rules that we discussed and I think were modified. Chat rules will be posted at the start of every meeting and voted upon for approval. Only co-hosts and co-hosts will get unrestricted chat. That means they can chat with each other and any other participants. All the participants will be allowed to post to everyone or individually to hosts and co-hosts only. No participant-to-participant chats will be allowed. That is not something I think we had permission correctly last time. Participant to everyone chat will be disabled during public speaking sessions. It will be disabled due to the superintendent's report. I think that was something that people requested universally last time. All participants will show respect in the chat. Council members, when communicating with the public, I think people will endeavor to post only factual information to everyone, or in rare cases directly to participants. Respectfully, please. And will not engage in any arguments with participants publicly or privately. An overseeing committee of 3 individuals will monitor the chat. Any profane language results in immediate expulsion. If any other language or behavior is deemed inappropriate by 2 of the 3 supervising committee members, and this is a change from what we had used last time, but it is something we discussed initially. A first bad act will result in a 5-minute cooling off session for all, so we don't have to single out anyone individually. I don't love that, but I think that's what people wanted. A second bad act will result in a 10-minute cooling off session for all, and on a third strike, chat will be turned off for the remainder of the meeting. And we'll discuss this at our next working business meeting, which hopefully is tonight. Any suggestions, adds, edits, and we should agree on the 3 people as well, which I am happy to do. But I don't know if people want that, but I think Lupe wants to be one of the other remaining 3, and Robin, I don't know if you want to be one of the third again, but that is what we had in place last time. Hopefully it'll work better this time. I'm not the chair, but Ben.
Yeah, and Lupe has a chance. Councilmember Lupe Hernandez, my apologies. You have your hand raised, please.
Yeah, so 2 things, I guess. One, do we have what the rules would be written out? Like, can we do like a mock-up of what we're going to be posting in the chat? 2, are we as the 3 designated people, are we going to be discussing what we feel is unwarranted before making decisions on when cool times are going to be implemented? And just making sure we don't fall back into back and forths with individual public members, I guess, as council members.
Again, open to
I see that.
discussion.
Yeah, I see it there. But so, yeah, if we can.
My intent is to drop it in the chat once we agree and vote. My intent was that yes, the 2 of the 3 of us, or all 3 of us would agree. At least 2 of us would agree before before the cooling off period.
So to clarify, I mean, all 3 be privy to
the chat.
Let me put it this way. If you and Robin on the side are deciding that you think that the chat needs cooling down, respectfully, I would like for you to at least kind of bring me into the discussion so that we can discuss among us.
My intent would be to mention it to both first and see who responds first, and whether or not they feel it's inappropriate. So, yes.
Is that satisfactory? Because I just don't want to take too long on this topic, but Councilmember Janie, can you have your hand raised?
Yeah, so I think just maybe talk about logistics of that. Would it be feasible for whomever the 3 people are to create a separate chat group on your phones? Because you can't really do it within the Zoom session. So that way, if somebody is chatting, if someone is acting up, you all can, post to each other. It's like, oh, what do you think of this person speaking? And so it's basically real time. Or if there's an instance where an individual is sending any one of the 3 a disparaging message, the person is going to have to take a screenshot of it and send it to the 3 council members and say, this is what I'm seeing. Should we elevate this? Like, am I overreacting or not? Is that a reasonable way to do it? Because I think there has to be a mechanism where all 3 of you are connected at the same time.
I'm okay with that.
It is on the
I agree. I definitely agree. That was the point I was trying to make. Thank you, Janie.
Are the 3 of us, me, Lupe, and Robin again? Or are there any other suggestions or volunteers? All right, well, I will fill that in here. And in the meantime,
Will you make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to vote on the proposal here I'm filling in TBD with myself, Lupe, and Robin Kelleher.
I second.
Councilmember Cheney, if you can take a vote.
Yes, so we are voting on the chat rules as posted. It's yay, nay, or abstain.
Just one thing, Robin is not being able to unmute herself. If somebody can make her a co-host, please.
Is that Robin Kelleher?
Robin Kelleher, yes.
Okay.
Okay, chat rules, yay, nay, or abstain. Robin Broshi? Robin Broshi? Okay.
Sorry, I said yes.
Okay, no problem. I couldn't hear you. Sorry. Kaushik Das?
Yes.
Daniela Igorov?
Yes.
Lupe Hernandez?
Yes.
Robin Kelleher?
Yes.
Chen Kwok?
Yes.
Benjamin Morton?
I abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Ushma Neal?
Also abstain.
Limfong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman?
Jane,
Abstain. Okay. Lily Wu? I don't think she's there. Gabriela Calabia?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. It passes with, we have 7 council member votes and 1 student vote.
Okay, so is it technically on right now
Let me post the rules first.
in the chat? Okay.
I'm having trouble with that. I think you can go ahead and just make sure that it technically works.
All right, I'm gonna try it now.
You might not have paste turned on, the setting.
Well, we can put the link into the.
Okay. Same thing though, I can't paste, but that's fine. I'll do it manually. It's gonna take a little doing.
Can we move on to the presentation of
Yeah, let's move on.
resolutions?
Okay,
Sure.
there.
Move on, yeah.
All right. Item 3 on our agenda is presentation of resolutions. Resolution 187B, calling for the optional use of masks at New York City Dewey schools. Councilmember Chen Kwok, do you like to speak to that?
Yes, hi, thank you very much. You notice that this is the same resolution as last time, calling for optional masking. And in the difference of 1 month, so almost all states have rescinded mask mandates in every school and also in indoor settings. Nothing has changed. The sign has not changed. But something else has changed, which is the politics have changed, because I think the politicians realize that the science doesn't support the policy, and many families, parents, and voters are noticing it. Hence, it's been gone. But there's one group left who are completely innocent and unrepresented. It's the 2 to 4-year-olds who are now still forced to mask. And I think the basis of that is because there's no vaccinations for that group. So pre-K students 3 and 4 are in DOE schools are now forced to mask. And they're still the youngest group and the lowest risk group, ever. I wanted to share this, if I may. They say that the mayor has said that there's some data that shows some risk. Let's see if I can find it. Here it is. They said that the 0 to 4 has high hospitalization rates, which once you take out the age 1 and below, which babies have higher rates of hospitalization because there's a lot of health issues. But once you separate the 1 to 4 age group, they're the same rates of hospitalizations as the 5 to 19 age group, as you can see on the screen here. So the science has not changed. How the data is presented, you just got to separate out the right data, and the data does not support masking. And if it was true that the kids who did not have vaccinations, it's still a very low rate in the schools compared to the adults who are higher risk. Definitely, we don't have much severe illnesses and deaths in this age group. Like I said, last month it was about over 70 children have died, and children have died from COVID-induced deaths. And this month maybe 100 added more, but still a very small percentage. And those kids who are at high risk are the ones primarily who are having severe illness and death rates. And those children must be protected, with N95 respirators and other means. But the rest of the children should go mask optional. And I say it's optional, not to be forced to not mask or to be forced to mask. So the science has not changed, but the politics have changed. But now we're missing the 2 to 4-year-olds and we need to speak out for them as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chen Kwok. All right, our next resolution is Resolution 192 to extend duration of high school wait lists. Councilmember Kushik Das, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, bear with me. Share a screen as well. You guys can see. While it's a dense document, it can be fairly brief. It basically says the admissions waitlist standards have changed a lot over the several years, and basically, and there are a lot of high school students that basically got none of their top 12 choices last year. 7% for the entire city, 18% of District 2, which was mentioned in the meeting with Chancellor Banks, as well as I think 11% Manhattan as well. It proposes a change to the waitlist methodology. In particular, it's, I'll just jump to the whereases, therefores. We request that it go to at least 2 weeks after the start of the school year in September 2022. This is to keep it in line with a similar resolution that is being presented to CCHS tomorrow. But we would prefer to have it up to including October 31st, which is the traditional date when DOE cuts off and snapshots enrollment for individual schools. And that's the crux of it. And beyond that, we hope this will alleviate a lot of stress and provide hope to families that have had difficulty with navigating this process in the past. And it would also like to extend this similarly to 10th graders, which basically would be last year's 9th graders who did not get into many of the schools that they wanted. Many of them, I think, are reapplying this year, and that this wait list be extended to them as well. There's one additional difference we resolved that discussed earlier today with the Chancellor again, that we continue to advocate for the DOE to reconsider alternative screening methods for high schools as proposed by this council, as well as 4 others, CCHS, CECD2, and CECD 24 and D26, which have passed resolutions since we last met. And I think that's the crux of it. Questions or comments?
The questions and comments will be after the first public speaking session. But Councilmember Das, the next, unless someone else wants to join your presentation, the next resolution is Resolution 193 to extend the duration of middle school wait lists. Would you like to speak to that as well?
Yes. Once I have it up. This is a basically analogous resolution for middle schools wait lists. Basically the same idea. It also goes into the history. It's a little less, the history for wait lists for middle schools, a little less involved in high schools. Also references the fact that enrollment has dropped over the past few years in the K through 8, and specifically middle school enrollment, the drop was higher, 7.4% instead of 3.6. And similar, therefore, be resolves with no reference to the admissions policy at this point. Same thing. We're requesting that it be extended till at least 2 weeks after the start of the school year in September 2022, but preferably until October 31st. And similarly, similar extension to 7th graders who might be applying newly to 7th grade because they didn't get into the middle schools they wanted last year in 6th grade. There was one change pointed out by Councilmember Ushmanil. Thank you. I think there was high school reference somewhere at one point in this document, which I think has been changed in the updated document. Did I miss anything, co-sponsors?
I think you got it. Thank you very much, Councilmember Das. Before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to let our those who are with us on Zoom know that we are still accepting public speaking sign up. I just posted to the chat public speaker sign up form. There are not many who have signed up for this meeting, but if you'd like to sign up, please do so now. And the next item on the agenda is the number 4 presentation for the school budget allocation formula presentation to CECs by the DOE for fiscal year 2023. The DOE, we were awaiting confirmation for this. They were not able to attend today. They will be at our next monthly calendar meeting on April 12th. And I should thank both Aisha George and Michelle Chang for helping to coordinate that with me in order to have that for our next month's meeting. Okay, and that takes us to our first public speaking session. Again, if you'd like to speak, please sign up in the next few minutes. It may move real quickly. Councilmember JD, would you like to announce our first speakers?
Yes, you actually are the first one. Is that correct?
Oh no, that was a test. Yeah.
Okay, then you're not. I'm going to put the names in the chat right now.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Ben, can I also alert you to Lily is in the, I think, joined us. If you can promote her as well.
Okay. So I just put the names in the chat. Yes, I went to everyone, and it's we're going to have a 2-minute time limit. I'm just gonna let me find the blue sky timer. There'll be a gentle warning in 10 seconds and a slightly louder warning at 2 seconds, and then it'll go into negative time. So the first speaker is Tamura.
Did she sign up for the second one, or I think she signed up for the second session.
Just replied yes, so she must have signed up for the second session.
Oh, sorry. Yes. The next speaker is Olivia Ramos.
Okay, I'll ask her to mute. Welcome, Olivia, to our CECD2.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. My name is Olivia. On February 8th, I spoke during CEC District 2 public session to express my concern about the acts of violence and terrible bullying at my son's school, 75 Morton, where he was transferred out of because of safety issues. The school did not address the violent issues or the bullying in any manner, and it escalated from September to December. My son was injured physically. He was hit in the groin, he was hit in the eye, he could have lost an eye, and it was very serious. And during that meeting, Council Member Robin Braschi took my statement out of context and posted it on Twitter. I didn't have a Twitter account at that time, but Council Member Braschi made what I thought to be a safe, supportive, and open forum to discuss all parents' concerns, a place where, you know, we faced mocking and disparaging comments. This information without context was further retweeted and left me feeling very targeted. I thought it was very insensitive. It showed a lack of compassion. It showed a lack of empathy. It showed a lot of narcissistic behavior on her behalf. And I think that it's very unethical and immoral. This tweet was further retweeted around 27 times, including by another appointed council member, Lupe Hernandez, and a council member on CCHS, Shino Tanikawa. So that's my statement. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Then we should be closing chat, by the way, for a
Oh.
speaking session.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Right.
If people can refrain in the meantime till we do that, that'd be great.
Is Liara Hartman
I don't see
want
her.
to? Okay, it says comment. I will submit a comment. Okay, skip that. Okay, the next speaker is Craig Slutskin.
Second. All right. Welcome, Craig, to CCD2. Please unmute yourself.
Thanks. I have several comments tonight, but I'll just try to go through a couple of them quickly and then speak more substantively on one of them. First, I want to thank Kush for his comments his insightful comments in the David Banks session. I agree. Going by percentage makes the most sense. Kids who worked hard, merit is not a bad word. Kids who worked hard to achieve work hard to achieve their grades. What we were saying to those kids at the 11th hour when we're saying, well, too bad that doesn't count. It's just not appropriate. Second, on G&T, I know we're still waiting to hear what's going on next year. I just want folks to remember the existing kindergartners who got lost in the change last year and also existing first, second, and third graders. If we want to expand, whatever that winds up looking like, please remember to expand for those kids as well. What I want to speak tonight about is conduct. It's not lost on me that the first thing I ever spoke about at a CEC meeting was the conduct of members, the screaming and insulting. And almost 2 years later, I'm speaking about it again. I speak at these meetings all the time, and I've been indirectly insulted. I don't recall any times that it was directed specifically at me, but certainly groups of parents, including me, were insulted or called racist. Whatever. I have a thick skin and I'm fine with that, but I'm not fine with it, but I have a thick skin and can deal. But there are many parents and guardians who are not comfortable speaking in these settings, and speaking at a D2 meeting in particular is even more daunting. CEC members should really be trying to make it so that parents and guardians feel uber comfortable speaking up. A couple of meetings ago, Olivia shared the story of her child being tortured at a school and how the school was failing that child. It's such a personal story, but instead of care and love, the council member tweeted during the meeting mocking her. You can agree or disagree, and your personal Twitter is your personal account, but it's just inappropriate. And when called out, all that council member had to do was say, I'm sorry if I added to your pain, and that would have been it. We all could show empathy. CEC members signed up for this. The speakers did not. Please conduct yourselves like ladies and gentlemen. What would you do if your kid was cyberbullying? I don't think, Ms. Brocha, you would ever condone that. I maybe disagree with you on a lot of issues, but I do think you have a moral conscience. You have kids and you're a mother. Please remember that. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Who's
The next speaker is Effie Zachary.
Okay. Effie, welcome to CECD2. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Speak on my behalf and not that of CCHS, of which I am a member. I want to just show a little bit of support for the waiting list resolutions. We're probably going to discuss, hopefully pass one tomorrow at the CCHS. It's just a common sense resolution. Why leave a lot of empty spots just because the DOE pick some arbitrary date? Why not make full use of our public school system? If certain students want to go to a certain place and there are still spots there, even in September, let them go there. The other thing I wanted to mention is I'm appalled by the DOE, especially the Office of Student Enrollment, to have, from what I heard tonight, possibly more than half the students in the system have 90 plus. I'm not even going to go into grade inflation or anything like that, but just the temerity to present it as such misconception, such deception of data presentation. I mean, most parents are not statistics experts, and even us who have a good quant background had to kind of do backflips to analyze the data and trying to understand how big the bucket is. How do they even like think not to just present it straightforward? I mean, if you want to put half the people in a lottery system and it's 90 and above is that bucket, at least be straightforward about it, not hide the data. I mean, it's bad. I don't even know how to say this well. It's bad enough that the bucket is so huge, in my opinion. I mean, what is selective if most students can get in, and the average student right now cannot pass a proficiency test? They're going to put such pressure on schools that don't have the resource to handle that kind of extra requirement in terms of remediation for students. But to present it in such misleading way, we should, as parents, we should not accept such misleading data. Going forward, we have to be very adamant about getting straight, honest data presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Effie. Who's our next one?
The next speaker is Hunter Dare. Katerina said she would post a comment.
Okay, great. Hunter, welcome to CCD2. If you can unmute yourself.
I did. Thank you. Just want to thank CEC2 for having the Chancellor on and for asking such fantastic questions, all very poignant, and appreciate the new information that you're able to bring to the public through that. Second, want to speak in favor of all the resolutions. First of all, the optional use of mask. I think it's kind of absurd at this point that we're only looking at masking the 2 through 5 year olds. They are the least likely, because of their low lung capacity, of spreading COVID and not creating real risk within the general system. So thank you for speaking up about this. Second, extending the duration of wait list, I think, is just critical. My daughter last year went to, applied for middle school, went through a lottery process, got the last choice of her 12 choices because she had a lottery number near the bottom, despite having all 4s on grades and test scores. But there were empty seats this year, and it's been a challenge to work with the school that we're in. I appreciate all the work that they have done to try to meet her academic needs, but at the same time, there were empty seats at schools that would have been better fits for her, and not allowing those schools to have an opportunity when they have empty seats for somebody that really needs those seats to attend one of those schools was just a travesty. So thank you for sponsoring these resolutions, and I hope that all of them pass.
Thank you, Hunter.
I see Olivia listed a second time, but I'm assuming that that's incorrect. The next person would be Christina Gradassi.
Yes. Christina, welcome to CECD2. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I also would like to speak in support of unmasking our youngest children in school. I think we are leaving them to bear the heaviest burden, and we know they are at the lowest risk for a poor COVID outcome. They have more protection than vaccinated adults, even though they are unvaccinated simply by them being such young children. We know that children need to see faces in order to develop properly, speech, and just general social and emotional well-being and development. I think that we really need to move past this and give our youngest learners the opportunity to see faces. The WHO has not recommended masking such young children ever. We are really outliers in masking such young children. And I think we need to recognize that we do not live in a vacuum. There are children all over this country and around the world that have never been masked. Most children under 12 have not been masked in many other countries. And there are children in this country that have not been wearing a mask in school for quite a long time. So let's please take the burden off of our youngest students and let them be mask optional. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
JD Zipkin.
Okay. JD, welcome to CECD2. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm Dr. JD Zipkin. I spoke on this topic last time, board certified pediatrician and fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics. I will again reiterate, my opinions here are those of my own and do not represent any other organization. This council has a lot of hard work to do when it comes to education, and I truly do ask that you stay within the realm of education. When we come into healthcare and you have partial pictures and cherry pick data that say, yeah, look, this one study I found shows that, hey, kids don't die as much. Again, it misses things like emergency department transfers, hospitalizations, ICU visits. If you have not personally seen a child limp in your arms, as I have, 9-month-old, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, go to the emergency department. You're probably not in the best place to making big picture judgments. And that's not to say that I'm the best expert at this. I'm not. But when it comes to science, there's a big picture here. And when we cherry pick our data, we are not really scientific. We are just an echo chamber confirming the biases that we started with. So the one physician on this council has indeed said, listen, we're here for education. Let's not create healthcare policy. If this council had actually implemented this policy, had voted yes for it the first time, it was at the surge of Omicron. If they had implemented it the second time, it was still at the height of Omicron. Things were coming down, but they were still several times higher than any other surge in history. Had we implemented the attempt at this in the 2 prior times that it was voted on, it would have led to increased ER visits, hospitalizations, ICUs, and deaths for the children in our community. I want my kid, both of mine, to be unmasked when the time is right. But my ask to this council is don't play scientist when you don't have the scientific background. It's not too hard to understand. You can do this if you want to do it right. But the cherry pick data here is not doing it right. Please, please, please stick to education. Thank you so much.
Thank you, JD Zipkin.
Robert Robinson is next.
Okay. Welcome to CECD2. Robert, please unmute yourself.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. It says my internet's unstable. I don't know why. But anyway, greetings to everyone. My name is Robert Robinson. I am the Parent Community Liaison for the Borough of Manhattan on behalf of the United Federation of Teachers. Glad to be here on the CEC2 meeting. I try to do the best I can to make all the CEC meetings, and I'm going to make it my business to be more present here, to be able to say hello in this in the public comments section. And so it was really good to listen to you all this evening, because one of the things that we try to do in my role is to see how we can be a resource to the CECs, presidents, councils, et cetera. And I was listening to you all talking about essentially what the rules are for decorum and debate. And one of the parents expressed some frustration about the way that has gone. And I've seen this a lot in these kinds of meetings. Chancellor's Regulations A660, which governs CECs and the other parent-led groups, say that Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition, is your parliamentary authority. And in that, it has the rules for decorum in debate. The things that you put in the chat, I thought were excellent, or that you listed, I thought were excellent. Those will be what you call standing rules, a part of what you call your standing rules. And so I'm a professional registered parliamentarian, and one of the things I've done is to do workshops for CECs and presidents' councils on Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure. And I'd like to offer that to you because as a District 1 parent, myself with 2 kids, 8 and 5 in D1 G&T, and all the other things I got with my schedule, the last thing I want to do is be on a meeting that goes longer than it needs to and where there's no decorum in debate, right? But you already have the tools, according to Chancellor's Regulations, to be able to help you with that. And so that's just about education. So I'll put my information, I'll send my information. Lupe has it, rrobinson@uft.org, and I would love to do a workshop for you all on Robert's Rules of Order. I think you find that very useful. Thanks a lot for the time.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Ben, Ushma pointed out that we didn't relay the numbers for the interpreters.
Okay.
So do we have the interpreters on? I guess we can put the numbers in the chat.
Yeah, if I'll open up the chat. If 1 second.
Perhaps they can also say it really quickly.
Sure. I don't know who are all the interpreters with us today, but all right. Yalin, I'll just write your name. Just give me 1 second so I can let you in.
I just clicked to.
Oh, I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, good evening, everyone. The following message is going to be in Spanish, offering interpretation services. Buenas noches a todos. Gracias por estar acá. Si desea servicios de interpretación en español, por favor, marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 601-637-255, símbolo numeral. Nuevamente, si desea servicios de interpretación en español, por favor marque desde su teléfono al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 601-637-255, símbolo numeral. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you mind putting that in the chat as well? And then Zhao Chun, I see you on my screen.
Hi, good evening, everyone. The following message is announced in Mandarin. 大家晚上好，需要普通话翻译的家长，请拨打电话347-966-4114，并拨打会议代码719-867-273，井号键。需要普通话翻译的家长，请拨打电话347-966-4114，并拨打会议代码719-867-273，井号键。谢谢。Thank you.
Is there a third translator? Are you aware?
I could not see the Cantonese translator, but if you're here, please raise your hand.
And if a Mandarin translator can
yeah, I see it says Cantonese, Ken Yong Lam. Do you see him?
Can you unmute him.
Can I ask to unmute? Okay.
Excuse me, before I'm doing the Cantonese interpretation, I just want to know if you lead the Cantonese interpretation, because I was joining the last meeting that you guys hold as a Mandarin interpreter, but you guys didn't ask for that. So it sounds weird that like if you need the Cantonese interpretation this time.
If someone needs the Cantonese interpretation, can you put your name in the chat, or that'd be all right?
They might be dialing in.
Okay.
We have dial-in people?
If no one dials in, maybe you can drop off in 5 minutes or so.
And I see a chat from Michelle Chen saying that you guys don't need the Cantonese interpretation. So I guess I would just dismiss myself, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, appreciate it. Have a good one, everyone. Yep.
Can you co-host Michelle Chang as well, please?
Sure.
I see only one dial-in, by the way.
All right. Okay. The next item on our agenda is a report of the president. Since I spoke during our meeting on the forum with the chancellor, I will yield to the next item, which is the superintendent's report.
Thanks so much, Ben. And it was good to be with you all and with the chancellor earlier this evening. I think they had some interesting things to say, and it certainly is interesting for me being in this position and just getting to know a little bit more about the chancellor's vision. I feel like I learn a little bit more each time that I speak with him and hear him speak. So this evening, what I will do is I'll share a little bit of an update of work that is going on in our schools. Also going to share a few data updates as well as health-related updates. We do have the New York State English and Math exams coming up very soon. The New York School Survey is open. And then just a brief note about updates on school safety and wellness. So here in the month of March, the standard schedule is for parent-teacher conferences to take place. Several of those are already taking place or are right in the middle of them for our middle grades. But this is an opportunity for families to get together. Those parent-teacher conferences and sometimes parent-teacher student conferences are being held virtually this year. We will see how it goes. That's how the schedule and calendar has been worked out with the central office as well as all of our labor partners. So we'll see how the calendar moves forward in the years to come, whether or not parent-teacher conferences remain as a virtual option or whether or not they move back to being in person. I did want to take a quick note to talk a little bit about the crisis in Ukraine, and our role here has been that of making sure that we are listening closely to our students and that we are here to support them. The attacks in Ukraine have impacted both certainly our students whose can trace family lineage to the region, but also talk of war and fighting is difficult and challenging for children, even if they don't have a direct family connection. Our kids are getting information from all kinds of sources, whether it's their own cell phone or the cell phone of a friend, watching TikToks and different things like that. Information is just being spread everywhere. And so as educators, it's really our role in this place to listen to our students and be supportive of them. Our older children our older students are also engaging in learning about the region. hearing information about key individuals who are involved, as well as learning about the geography and history of the area and economics. And this is certainly a challenge for a lot of our students right now. But again, what we've communicated from the district office is the importance of listening to students, supporting students, and reaching out to families to let them know how kids are doing if they are noticing that their child is having difficulty in this time. We are thankful right now that New York City has built a civics curriculum to serve kids in the upper grades. That curriculum really explores different aspects of decision-making, how decision-making is made both locally in our own country, as well as in countries around the world and on the world stage. And so we are thinking about families that are directly affected. Our hearts are going out to them. And I've just been very impressed and appreciate the way that different school leaders have reached out to let us know how it is that they are supporting our families who have, our students who have family in Ukraine. Just a short update. We don't have a huge change again in our attendance rate, which hovers around 93%. Prior to the Omicron variant, our attendance had been as high as 95%. With the Chancellor Banks talked a little bit about how it is that there is a new sense of spring. Perhaps it was the 70 degree day that hit us the other day, but it does feel as though we're heading into a good place in our schools after so many months of trying to start initiatives and being interrupted by different aspects of the pandemic. It does feel like we are opening up a little bit to a new day, and there's a renewed excitement for getting into classrooms, trying new things, and really building work towards goals, both to finish out this year strong and really start to think about the coming year. I mentioned in the Chancellor's Town Hall earlier that we did have some basic information about academic screeners. I will say that several years ago, when the Bloomberg administration was in place, there was an attempt to try to build a very comprehensive data portal for our schools. And the academic screeners have brought a lot of good information both to both school-wide and to our school leaders, as well as to teachers. I'm going to share a couple of examples of how our teachers are looking at those data. But I will say that the academic screeners, there is not yet a really comprehensive site in which we can dig in and share a lot of specific data. We're looking forward to that. And actually in my conversation that I had with Deputy Chancellor Desmond Blackburn, who's new to the administration, I mentioned to him that making sure that both our district leaders, our school leaders, and our teachers have really good access to data that they can use to drive their instruction. So what we have right now is some big picture looks at our data. So again, to remind folks, I mentioned it here before, that there are 3 primary assessments that are used across our district: Acadience at the lower grades, iReady, and NWEA MAP. So what we do, we don't have, there isn't a way to blend all of those together to get a picture of how things look across the district. But what I can say is that the data that we have right now are in regard to looking at student performance on grade level. So we see 67% of our students working on grade level in literacy on the Acadience assessment. The mathematics Acadience assessment is not actually electronic right now. And so those data are still on paper. And so reporting that out is complicated. And so this is one of the ways that the city is working to make those data more accessible across schools and for teachers. The iReady assessment, we see 60% of our students who are working at or above grade level in literacy, 56% in mathematics, and the NWEA MAP assessment, again, similar 60% in literacy and 53% in MAP. So fairly consistent there. The NWEA MAP assessment has another score. It's called the RIT score. And what that is, it's a set of grade bands, 5 quintiles in which the data are divided. And they take that data another step. There's a lot of predicting that is done through the NWEA MAP assessment and tools. The RIT assessment can be correlated with a predicted level of test scores of a level 3 or higher. So across the district of the students who took the NWEA MAP assessment, 78% are predicted to have a level 3 or higher in literacy, and 71% a level 3 or higher in mathematics. So that's a big picture look. We are able to break those data down a little bit more in regard to looking at students with disabilities as well as students who are living in temporary housing. But this is kind of big picture for our district. There is also a set of assessments that are teacher facing, and this is an example of what it looks like on NWEA MAP. So we have student performance that's broken down into 4 different quadrants. We have across the bottom in the pink and the yellow, on the far left in pink, or my far left, in the pink box shows students who are in a low achievement, low growth category. On the right in the yellow, we see students who are high achievers, but in regard to the mid-year assessment, they did not make much growth. So, and then on the top left in the orange box, we see students who entered the fall with a low rate of achievement, but they made a lot of growth. And that's why they're in that top orange box. And then in the green box, those are students who entered the school year as high achievers. And then on the mid-year assessment, they made high rates of growth. And so this is a teacher tool. It's not live right now, but if a teacher was working with it, they would be able to get information about who the students are. Each of these little rose-colored or purple boxes represents a different student. So they could pull up the names of students who are in each of the different quadrants here, as well as some of their demographic data, whether they're a student who receives free or reduced lunch, or lives in temporary housing, or of different ethnicities as well. So this has been a really important tool for our schools. This is just, again, the NWEA MAP facing tool, but the other assessments that our teachers are working with you are able to look at data in a similar way as well. I also, we know that there have been several new updates in regard to health issues connected to the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that face coverings now are optional, both indoors and outdoors, for all students and staff, as well as all visitors to schools, but they are still required for students who are in 3K and pre-K, as well as some specialized programs that are serving infants and toddlers. Students are also asked to wear a mask if they are visiting the nurse's office, and the nurse has those on site for students. Face coverings, again, are also optional for students visiting schools, but and adults visiting schools are also still required to show approve of at least one dose of vaccination. Again, anybody who has been exposed to someone, knowingly exposed to someone who had COVID-19 are still strongly encouraged to wear a mask. That goes for both folks who are visiting schools as well as teachers and students alike. Any staff member or kindergartner that has to isolate because they were tested positive for COVID-19 is still required to wear a mask upon returning to school. There are no requirements for social distancing in classrooms and auditoriums. However, in spaces where kids eat, cafeteria, and if they eat in the classroom, we are still implementing 3 feet of social distancing. Again, that's when students have their masks off and they are eating. And the New York City continues to use the health screening tool that we all have been using upon entry to a building. The New York State exams are coming up this month. The New York State ELA exam is this month, March 20th and 30th. On day one, students at all grade levels are working with reading passages that are followed by multiple choice questions. And then on day two, those reading passages students respond to reading passages through short responses as well as extended responses or essays. Of course, modifications, adaptations, and supports that might be a part of a student's IEP or 504 plan are implemented. The New York State exam comes up in April, April 26th and 27th. Again, on day one, there are multiple choice questions. And day two, there are some short response questions as well as some extended. On the New York State exam, students are introduced to different mathematical tools, including rulers, protractors as kids get older. In the upper grades, students start to use calculators and scientific calculators in the upper grades. And again, modifications, adaptations, supports for kids with disabilities, 504 plans, and English language learners are implemented on the state math exam. This month, we launched the New York City School Survey, and it's a very exciting opportunity for us to get information and feedback in regard to how it is that our families and staff are viewing the academic year so far. In our upper grades, students take this survey in grades 6 through 12. This survey is now available on the NYC Schools account. There is not an additional login that's required there. You can just go onto the website and click on either this top link or in the forms section, and you can gain access to the school survey. We talk a lot about data and feedback in regard to student performance, but feedback that parents and students and teachers provide schools through this survey are equally as important. And so we are hoping for high rates of completion on this school survey this year. Just to share, this is a quick snapshot of how it is that these data are presented and shared. This is the district summary, but there's also a summary that is school facing. What we're able to do once the survey is closed is we can go in and we can look at how it is that students and families and teachers are evaluating our schools on this survey in regard to 4 components that align with the framework for great schools. Those 4 components are rigorous instruction, collaborative teachers, supportive environment, and trust. What we're going to do over the next few months is monitor completion. Really encourage families to complete this survey so that we have good feedback that we can take into the summer and really improve the programs that we offer families for the fall. And that concludes my presentation this evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Kelly McGuire. And thank you for sharing all that data. You know, I love data, so I hope to speak to you more about it and also support you on trying to get these academic screeners more timely and, you know, more available on the DOE. Thank you. Are there any council members who have questions for our superintendent? Please raise your hands. I think that might be, oh no, it's not a first. Okay, Councilmember Chen Kwok, yes.
Sorry, I just be quick on this. Thank you for the presentation. You know, when you talk about the improvements with the MAP, you know, MAP scores, I think that's a great thing. I was just reading an article about the use of student progress percentile or student growth percentiles as a measure. In PS 111, the principal was focused on looking at improvements as a measure, not just like the state test scores or raw score. I think we should implement that as a standard to show, you know, progress, because that's really an important measure. It's not where you started from, but it's the rate and steadiness of the student's improvement and what we can do to help that. So I look forward to make that part of it. The other one I want to maybe ask is, I don't know if it's even possible, you're now reporting on vaccination rates by school. Can you provide also serious illness and, you know, hospitalization and deaths at each school or by the district, so we can see more data, so that we, you know, we can, because there's a lot of stuff that goes out and we don't, you know, families don't know. And if they have that data, they can say, okay, is it really happening? And what's the impact of all these changes in the masking policies and so forth? How does that impact it? You know, so just so that we have that corresponding data and the vaccination rate. Thank you.
I certainly can obtain rates of vaccination per school and share that with the council and with the district.
Yeah, I know that's being provided. That's what I understand, but can we go a little bit deeper and say, you don't have to get different names, so just as an aggregate, you know, and if it's too small of a sample, then you may not want to share it. But even at the district level, how are we doing in terms of serious health, you know, impacts from COVID to the students and staff, and also deaths? You know, like, can we track that and show what the actuality is, you know, beyond just overall, because the schools are the safest places, right? And we know that, but then, you know, what is, how much further can we show in terms of hospitalizations and, you know, which hopefully will represent serious illness, not just short, you know, but also deaths. So that's true data, true like understanding of what's really happening.
Yeah, I can see what it is that's available that I could share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kwok. Councilmember Das, you have your hand up.
Mine's quick, Kelly. Thank you for the presentation. Quick question. You mentioned one deputy chancellor, a name I wasn't familiar with. Who was that? And his role?
Thanks. Yeah, it's you have to hit them all, Mr. Dax.
Good to know. Well, we don't have a directory.
I got you. No, Desmond Blackburn actually is he's from New York State. He has been hired and will be filling a district role. He's going to be the deputy chancellor to whom I will be directly reporting. He himself was a superintendent in Florida, and he seems to be, you know, a very central part of Chancellor Banks's team.
But it's like several superintendents report to him.
I think that all of them are going to.
Oh, got it. Oh, I remember. Okay,
yeah.
Now I remember. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Unless there are other council members with questions, thank you, Superintendent. Are there any council members who would like to present a committee report?
Yes,
Well,
I do.
You both had your. It's International Women's Day, so let's, Councilmember Schmanil, please, you go first.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And happy International Women's Day to everyone out there. I was not able to get myself together to arrange a Students in Temporary Housing Committee meeting for this month, but we will meet next month. And I was going back and forth with Iris Gersten after Chancellor Banks commented on the question that I asked. And we're going to try and put our heads together in advance of that meeting to actually come up with some suggestions so that we can really demand that meeting together with him to sit down and try and make some tracks. But that's all for right now. So I promise that there will be a meeting in April before spring break, maybe the day after our next CEC meeting.
Thank you, Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Doss?
Yeah, I made reference to, or in the Chancellor report, that I had a meeting with.
We can't hear you very well.
Excuse me.
Skip you. Councilmember Hernandez?
I just thank you. I just wanted to mention we actually will be having our first Students with Disability committee meeting on Tuesday, March 29th at 6 p.m. I just saying it now in case we don't get to the working business meeting. But in the meantime, we have been working with a lot of families that are dealing with the busing issues. We'll be marching Brooklyn Bridge. I can put the information in the chat for any family members that would like to join us. And we look forward to that meeting with Chancellor Banks as well. So look forward to hearing from families about more concerns regarding students with disability.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. If you want to get me a flyer that I can email to our community, that'd be great. All right, Councilmember Doss, are you?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Work? Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I just made reference to this in the meeting with Chancellor Banks. I did have a one-on-one with Chancellor Banks just earlier today. It wasn't strictly council business, but because it was relation to Senator John Liu had a panel for Asian parent leaders, which actually Councilmember Chen Kwok was supposed to attend, which he was unable to do and passed to me because I was actually supposed to attend that first meeting, which I was unable to attend. But it was in that capacity that I was speaking with him. I did also have a meeting prior to that with Deputy Chancellor Weisberg, First Deputy Chancellor Weisberg, also on similar topics, but not representing the Asian community in this case. He just had heard comments I had made at PAP, again specifically regarding high school admissions. So I did want to fill people in on that, and that's all. You heard a lot of the results of what came out of that in the questions today.
Thank you, Councilmember Doss. Councilmember Robin Kelleher.
Yep, thank you. Right before spring break, we met with Deputy Chancellor Philip Banks and his team. This was regarding safety agents and the need to bring them back at many elementary schools. And I want to say we had a big win. Thank you, Mark Rampersant, who returned our second safety agent the next school day. So this was a huge victory for PS33 and hopefully will be a victory for many more schools to come who are in need of their safety agents return and for safety overall in our city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Keller, and that was a big one. Thank you. Councilmember Hernandez, you still have your hand up? Is that from before? All right, so the next item up is a discussion of resolutions. Does anyone want to make a comment or do you have a question regarding resolution 187B calling for the optional use of masks at New York City DOE schools? Okay, Councilmember Neal.
Sure, with regard to this, I will be voting no again on this. I would just caution everyone that A, masking is optional for everyone over age 5 already. And B, we need to keep our eye on the BA2 variant that is currently circulating around the globe that is looking to be more transmissible and more deadly than ever. So many of those who are much more well-versed in public health and virology are cautioning that we will be returning to masks.
Thank you, Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Hernandez.
There was some parents in the chat that brought up if it's possible for you guys to include some sort of statement encouraging school communities to not bully children that are still choosing to wear masks.
Are you saying to include that in the resolution?
Yeah, a
Okay.
suggestion, take it or leave it. I just saw that some parents had brought that up. I personally will be voting no on this. I don't think it was safe for us to make masks optional for any school grade, but especially for our youngest students. But that was something that a parent had brought up. So just thought I would bring it to the council's attention.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. Councilmember Doss.
I think the bullying actually goes both ways. I think the schools are uneven in the distribution of, I think, radically different in terms of how many kids choose to mask and how many kids choose to unmask. I've heard very different. I think one daughter says 5 kids in her class masked and the other one says 5 kids in her class are unmasked. So probably bullying goes both ways. If we add it to the resolution, I request it be for both kids who mask and unmask. I'm not opposed to the idea though in general. I actually have had a change of opinion on this resolution. I still continue to not love it in the grounds of us opining on medical opinion, but I would the disproportionate impact on younger kids does appeal to me at this point, especially with rates so low. And I understand there's always a threat of a new variant around the corner, but at some point we do have to think about what society looks like outside of COVID. So my opinion on this has changed. I would prefer, though, that we don't discuss medical resolutions much in the future going forward, unless they particularly tied to an agency. I think one that was brought up early in our term, which specifically tied to CDC rules or something like that. I prefer resolutions have such more specific scientific concrete ties. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Doss. Councilmember Silverman, our parliamentarian.
Yeah, I'm gonna just follow up comments that I made last time. I was really happy that my son, who is a 4th grader, did not have to wear a mask in school. I'm also extremely happy that my son, who is a junior in high school, didn't have to wear a mask. I not give them masks, even though it's optional. I think it's really happy and healthy, much better for them. But that being said, I do think there is, as I pointed out last time, not a consensus in our district, which is something that's very important to me. I do think there's questions that many parents have. And I would also just like to add that I think that what we do here is really going to be preempted and is really not going to matter, because ultimately the decisions are going to be made by other entities. And quite frankly, I do think we should be leaving issues of science to scientists. And I don't really believe that any school, organization, district, or anything within the New York or any other state for that matter is really going to care what we do here. I really don't think it's going to make much of a difference one way or the other. I will be voting against this, again, primarily for the reasons that I don't feel it's a consensus in our district. And I do think that we really should leave science to scientists. And finally, as I said before, I think really this whole issue is really being preempted anyway. They may come up with rules next week that masks are optional for kids that age group. So I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves on this one. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Silverman. Are there any other council members that would like to speak? Yes, Councilmember Clark.
Yes, thank you. I take on the comments from other council members and the comments, the request from the public about putting in a section about not bullying. I would agree if we want to add an amendment, only if we think that's necessary. I do support that, and I've seen notices go out at my children's school where it's very balanced, that kids who don't want to mask, who want to mask, choose to mask, should be treated without any kind of bullying or stigmatization. I would say that the reason why I did have this resolution is that it's not just the medical or science, which I would normally leave alone, but it affects learning and affects development of children. And once you get into that, it does get into the realm of the CEC's responsibility. And if I thought that what I did would, it didn't matter because we have no statutory power not to change anything, then I wouldn't join the CEC. But it is a fact that we have a responsible as leaders in our community to, sometimes make the call of what we think is the right thing. And, last month, this was put forth and rejected, but, and I didn't really want to say that, winning is not the option, is not the goal. It's really to educate families and let families feel comfortable in expressing their doubts and concerns about what's really happening with the mandates. So I think a lot of, and with that, I hope we provided a safe forum to do that. And in fact, after last month, there's only probably one state that still has a mask mandate in force of any kind. And all of the states, and New York State was the last to have school mandates, lifted. It's still partially California, so all these states have decided that, yes, the science is good, that the same science that I presented last time and the before holds. And of course, if we start talking about new variants, we can talk about the future. Well, something might come up in the future that might be harmful. We should all stay home then, right? And we need to speak facts about the new variant. There is a new variant. Maybe it's more contagious, but there's no data on the deaths. I'm very surprised by Councilmember Neal saying that there's going to be a lot of deaths coming, but there's no data to support it. I don't know why you're not using data that you always support using. So I'm a little bit surprised at that. But having said that, I do want to make it so that people understand what the data looks like. That's why I asked Superintendent McGuire to provide data, at least on a district level, about actual hospitalizations and actual deaths, and compare that to vaccination rates. Children have not been vaccinated, but they're not dying, in high numbers. Adults are, older people are, and high-risk children are, but we need to protect those people and those children. But everyone else, we shouldn't sacrifice learning and development and have the youngest carry the burden, as one of the parents said. Thank you.
Councilmember Igor.
I just want to say one thing. If people are really still so worried about COVID, please go to Madison Square Garden and ask everybody to mask there on the concerts. Please go to the restaurants. Believe the kids who are the lowest risk and who are behind in their development. Let's stick to education. They are behind their speech development. Free to learn to read. That's all. If you're so concerned about COVID, go to Madison Square Garden, go to all these places. There are tons of people, thousands of people together, congregating, spreading whatever germs, and our few kids in a class cannot take their masks off. It's outrageous at this point.
Councilmember Kwok, did you want to add in addition to the?
Yeah, I'll do it. I think that's a good thing to do.
If we'd like to do that, can you put that in the chat, and then we could, and then you can make a motion to add that or not.
So,
and I'll just make one comment while you're doing that. We're not educators on the council, we're parents, yet we vote on education. We have resolutions all the time. March 1st, 2020, we brought up science when no one else was saying close the schools. We're not scientists, but we're parents. We can look at data and we can make judgment calls, and we can say, and then we can pivot when something comes. And if there's a new deadly variant, we put the masks back on. But what I've seen over the past few months is that social emotional issues are real, and I've also seen learning issues real. And I think it's time to give a try with masks off, or at least the option. I've asked my children, are kids taking off masks in their class? One child, only 6 kids took off masks. Class, only 2 kids took off masks. So, and these are 7th and 8th graders, and actually same with my 12th grader. People are waiting to see how things evolve. And there haven't been any issues that I've seen. So this is all anecdotal, and I'm saying, but what is absolutely prevalent is that we have issues that might have been brought about by masking and social distancing and remote education. So that's why I'll be voting for it. But I'll be ready to turn on a dime if I think there is if it's causing harm for our students. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Councilmember Doss.
I don't want to. Mine's not a comment on the masking. To give Chen more time, in the past we have continued on to other resolutions to add the amendment later to give him some more time and to move things along.
So you need some more time.
Let's just give it to him. And
yeah, sure.
Yeah, just put something in there, but we can consider that. But we can move along with the other resolutions to keep things moving.
Well, it wouldn't be voted on now anyway. It would be after our second public speaking session. So, okay. All right. Okay, this one's up with you again, Councilmember Kwok. Sorry. It's the budget modification discussion.
Don't we have to discuss the other resolutions?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. It's been a long night already. All right. Yes. Resolution 192 to extend the duration of high school wait lists. Councilmember Doss, did you want to say anything, or do we have any questions or comments?
I think it's self-explanatory. I'll answer any questions.
Okay. And same with Resolution 193. They're very similar, to extend the duration of middle school wait lists. Are there any questions or comments?
Same. I think even less controversial.
Wait, sorry, I forgot to raise my hand. I wanted to comment on both of them at once.
Yes, Councilmember Robin Broshy, please go.
Okay, great. So I completely agree that the wait lists should be extended till, I think, mid-October, just because doing it the same time as the October 31st deadline just seems like a little, maybe too tight. I think we probably all know people whose kids got into schools in that funny window in between when the wait list ended and school starts. And I think a really transparent approach to managing, and a consistent and transparent approach to managing the wait list through October 15th makes a lot of sense. I actually never really understood why they would cut it off before that, other than to give sort of wiggle room. And I think nobody benefits from that kind of opaque black box approach to enrollment. And I guess but unfortunately, my reservations are that so much of the language in the resolution is stuff I'm uncomfortable with. So I will be voting against these resolutions, but I definitely agree that the wait lists, there's absolutely no reason they shouldn't be extended till October 15th.
All right, thank you. Any other comments?
I'll just say I like I don't think we're going to agree on the piece of the other whereases, but as for October 15th versus 31st, I might normally agree with you, but I think in light of what everything has happened, I would choose to be aggressive on the 31st as opposed to 15th. If to see it out to DOE ever came to us and asked for the 15th as a compromise, I would accept. But I don't know. As it stands, we were interested in the 31st aggressively by intention.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yeah, I had a question, and I'm not sure if either of the co-sponsors of the resolution would be able to answer. Maybe Superintendent Kelly, how much of a burden or how would that affect enrollment numbers if it was extended to the 31st? And just curious that if those extra 15 days, would that make any difference regarding enrollment numbers and data?
Superintendent?
I can't really comment on that. I don't know.
I don't have an answer if you're looking for one. And I don't know if you mean the 15 days between the 15th and the 31st, or other than that, it was far more than 15 days. The wait list closed quite like late summer from recollection. And I'm less specific on the high school date, but I think it's a big deal. I think it was a big difference. And I think there are families in the district that chose to move because they didn't have this flexibility.
If I can just mention one thing, that the resolution states in the second therefore to keep the wait lists at least open, I guess, at least 2 weeks after the start of school in September 2022, but preferably up to and including October 31st. So it's asking, it's giving some flexibility to DOE, but yet extending it. Councilmember Robin Broshi?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone cared. The 31st versus the 15th versus 2 weeks into the school year wasn't my primary objection to it. It was like, I think we all know where the points of this resolution that would make me uncomfortable. I don't think I need to go into them. So those are the reasons I'm voting against it. But, if we wanted a unanimous resolution, it could happen. I think that there's definitely consensus that it's arbitrary that the deadline for the wait list ends in July or early August. And it's actually, I think, inconsistent with how they run the G&T wait lists, which do run into the beginning of the school year. So I think, if we wanted to stick to just the pure mechanics of it, it could be unanimous. But I understand why that might not be a priority for everyone.
All right, thank you. Are there any other final comments for resolutions 192 and 193? Okay. Councilmember Kwok, did you want to discuss the budget modification, or?
Sure, I'll just go over what we have right now. And I apologize to Councilmember Newell for not replying to her email. I'm caught up, and I wanted to also bring it up here on her. You can raise your suggestion on what we can spend the funds on that we have. So I deeply apologize. I usually try to respond as quickly as you have responded to me. So I didn't extend you that courtesy, so I apologize again. So I'll just share my screen of my spreadsheet. Thank you, President Morden, for presenting it. I'll use the spreadsheet so we can make edits and changes as we need to on the screen. Can everyone see this? So basically for what we've approved last time is here. We have the cumulative expenses that was published. I also have the monthly ones, that we can probably hide, but you can see the expenditures that we have. Some of them are still not reimbursed. Let me know if for the individual members' expenses. Let me know if you still haven't gotten reimbursed by the financial office. We've been pushing that, but let me know if it's still not resolved. But I'll just for the sake of discussion, I'll just hide these columns for now, so that we just focus on how we want to make changes on here. Yeah. So right now we have like about 23 overall to spend. So I'm open to discussion on what we want to spend it on. We have cost breakdowns that we had identified last time for the buckets of spend, depending on the situation, virtual and in-person hybrid. We do have the OML law being open meeting laws potentially expiring, so that we have to go in person, so that it have different tenor of spending, and we have to decide how we want to have our meetings and the technology that's needed to support the type of meetings we want to have, and the feasibility of that we had discussed earlier, in the term. But so I open the floor to if people want to discuss things that they want to put money towards or change around.
Councilmember Neal.
Two things. One, Chen, I still haven't gotten reimbursed from that expense back in September that I've asked about. But sorry, three things. Second, Lupe and Lupe really should deserve the credit, is going to go and pick up the meeting owl from the borough president's office next week sometime, so that we'll have that. But remember that those can work in sets of 2. So as we are anticipating going back in person, it might be wise to use some of the equipment budget for purchasing right now another meeting owl, if that's going to be one of the main ways by which we choose to keep our D2 parent community engaged if and when we go back to in person. And then the gist of the email so the third thing that is the gist of the email that I sent to Chen is that I'd love to know what the timing for submitting budget changes are, because we need to seek approval, right, for a revised budget. And one of the things that I would propose we do again this year that we did last year was use the money towards supplies for the remaining students in temporary housing, or at least the shelters that are in D2. And with consideration, if there are not a sufficient number on which we could spend on the order of $20,000, we could consider helping those students who either were in D2 to provide transportation to come back in D2. Anyways, those are my ideas. It was last year we were able to use our money towards supplies for students in temporary housing, and that worked quite well in terms of buying from DOE approved vendors and making relationships with our local principals to deliver the items to our schools.
Councilmember Keller, you'll be able to speak in one moment. I just want to respond to Councilmember Neal. I have been in contact with FACE, and there's an issue about honoring our modification to the budget. Last year they gave us till early April. I think we went to like April 7th or so. This year, this year I'm not even sure if this modification will be accepted today. So I'm hoping we pass it, and then we move forward. The best things that we can do is to put it into 2 big buckets. But I don't know why they've changed their views on at least allowing councils to have a chance to vote on it in March. But I'm in contact with Aisha George and Michelle Chang about this. Okay, Councilmember Kelleher.
I was just going to basically say what you said, Ben. At the check-in today with FACE, Aisha and Michelle echoed the same comments that they didn't have answers yet, and they would try to get back to us. So that's it.
Yes, I missed that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, ditto. See my comment in chat.
Councilmember Kwok, do you want to, throw this is an opportunity where we could throw money into those two big buckets, the 400 and the general supplies, and then we'll just vote on the modification. That way, it allows for a little extra ability to. I think, first of all, you did a great budget last time, so we have a lot of money in those buckets already, more so in the. Councilmember Hernandez.
So yes, Ushma, I had asked that at our check-in, and I'm glad that Ben brought that up because I was really concerned that the budget had already passed. But if we are still making amendments, I guess just with the hopes that they may accept them, I thought we had discussed possibly leaving some funds in refreshments in case we end up going back to in-person at some point before the end of the term. But I'm not seeing anything there. Is that not something we wanted to consider?
Schools were having some issues with that when the budget was originally made, where we couldn't bring in food items because of COVID concerns.
Is that still the case? Do we know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just for the record, the money that isn't spent goes back to the DOE, goes back to students, in general, the bucket. So it's not like it may be lost to the council if we don't spend it, but it's still a bucket of money for the DOE system. Councilmember Neal?
So given that I haven't even been reimbursed from September, I'm loath to suggest this, but if there's member expenses up to $2,000, is there anything stopping us from spending $2,000 on supplies for students in temporary housing and getting reimbursed? Or using our equipment budget to buy things that would go to some of our less resourced schools? I'm suggesting that we don't have to amend the budget, but we could try and work within the realm of what we've already allocated.
I think that's a great idea because I was actually going to forego a majority of what was left over in my budget to students in temporary housing should we have been able to make that. But Jennifer, do you know if that's something that we can do? If we are purchasing through the DOE vendors for supplies needed for students in temporary housing, can we be reimbursed for that? Or is it specifically just childcare transportation?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. I don't want to give you an answer and it's wrong.
Yes. So member reimbursements can only be used for childcare, and I think at some point in the pandemic could be reimbursed for internet as well, and transportation. I think there was one case in which CECs pulled together money. I think many of you were here in like summer of 2020 might have been, for students in temporary housing. Worked with Iris on that, but that was a one-off. But it doesn't, like, if you have any ideas, I can definitely pass them to the finance office. Unfortunately, FACE doesn't make the budget rules, so it was the finance office who told us that they wouldn't move on like the March deadline. But we're trying. Aisha and I are trying. We're trying to figure out who extended it last time and to see if they can extend it again. But we're getting pushback.
Can I make a statement? I can't find where I can raise my hand. So I think the unknown now is the open meeting laws and what kind of expenditure we need to have for equipment. So 6,000 really isn't that much when we look at equipment costs. I think the miscellaneous operating expenses is probably where we potentially take things from. We have the software services and the equipment are the big buckets of spend. Professional services, we may not have a need in the future, really for the rest. This is the annual, right? So if we don't expect to have professional services, we potentially can also move from there. But the equipment is I think it's, there's some planning that looked at potential need for, a in-person or even a hybrid, which even would need some more supportive equipment to have in-person auditorium style plus connection with remote audiences to hear and see each other, as well as the council members. So that's where I think the professional services and miscellaneous operating expenses. So we can see the cost breakdowns. Miscellaneous operating expenses, these are like special events, miscellaneous. So those, I think that's an open bucket that it's fungible to use. So I think that's where we can draw from, but without much need for changing things around as well. Save the professional services.
Councilmember Kwok, is it possible to zoom in? Because I can't, I don't know if you all can see it on your screen. I'm having a little tough time seeing it. Oh, that's much better. Thank you. If you were able to put the technology software services 417 into the miscellaneous in the 400, that would give us what, 13,000. And I think you can use the 400 on a bunch of other items, including the 417. And I believe there's a super item in terms of 117, 198. And what was the other one? For supplies general. I think it's 3 codes.
Which one is that? Supply, the supplies?
Yeah, supplies. Yeah, supply. There's a supplies general code, which is 117, 198. It's a 3rd code as well. I forget that. It might be a 300 number. I would need to dig that up real quickly.
What I have is postage, P-card, refreshments, water, office supplies. Those are the supplies, 117, 179, 198.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah, supplies general, 117, 179, 198. Because if you threw that in there, and then that gives them flexibility to buy some items as well.
It's about $600.
Yeah, that's what
you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not that.
It's not.
Yeah,
it's
but you could add from that 13,000 that you now have in the 400. You could take away, like, I don't know, 10,000 or so. Actually, you wouldn't want to do that because we just don't know what supplies that we could be buying, and we may want to buy a whole bunch of supplies for the next term. in terms of technology. Yeah, that second camera, and but you could put that into you could balance the two out. I can try to pull up what we spent last year in order to make the 17,000. One moment.
Should we move the professional services money to something? I mean,
Yeah, we're not going to use it.
Change, right? That's like not a.
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah, maybe put that into general supplies and do professional services. I don't know if that was used for babysitting in the past, so.
I'm just going to ignore the totals for now because it should all add up to 25,000 anyway.
Should have that momentarily. Second. All right. Last year we had 12,000 in the supplies budget of 12,378 in the 198, 179, 117, and then we had we had 10,671, and then we had in the 400 we had another 7,000. So that's how we were able to put about 17,000 together. And it was with those two buckets we were able to purchase other things for students in temporary housing.
Do we need to make a motion? Can I move to do something similar and move the bulk of these budgets into supplies and miscellaneous so that we can move forward with the people who want to speak in this next session?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, but can we, in that motion, can we make that we will agree that to give Chen the flexibility to put the exact numbers, and that we'll present it to the to hopefully the DOE, make an attempt to get the DOE to accept it. Would that be okay, or do we? Or
of course, I see Janie has her hand up. I'm sorry, I did not mean to speak over her.
Janie?
No. All right, I'd like to make a motion Chen to have some flexibility around balancing this budget, moving things into supplies and miscellaneous operating expenses, with the hope that the DOE will let us do this.
I second that.
Everyone seconds.
My caveat is that the technology software services, we can move it all in one, as I think as we have. That's the big bucket already. Those are the and the equipment. So like I said, I think the operating expenses can give us flexibility. The equipment, I guess it's like hardware equipment. I don't know how we can separate that out from the category, from the financial controls standpoint. And then I think those end up to be the big buckets because we moved our professional services into the general supplies. So as we see it now, I'll just bold the three big buckets now. It's these guys here, and these here. Okay, so this is general supplies, 2,600, equipment 6,000, miscellaneous operating expenses at recategorizing. It'd be 13,800. And then the staff transportation is very small, 500, and member expenses, which we meet on a monthly basis, but we can redirect that as well. So those are the four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 big buckets. After 5 buckets that we would put them in. If that's how it looks to you.
Great, fine. I think we just passed a motion.
I appreciate Councilmember Kwok, you doing this. And any council members who need to get reimbursed, it has to be submitted before June to get it reimbursed with this budget. So
that covers what time period?
This term from July through June.
You have to submit by June for a June expense?
Yeah, I know there's a
Okay,
whole,
that's fine.
but
That's
the June would follow for the following month in case something happened. But yeah, but they're pretty tough on that.
So so the concerning thing is that Michelle has kindly escalated to the finance, and I think you should as well. We haven't gotten any feedback back from them, so I'll need to chase them again. But one of it is that we don't have an AA that has the direct P card and that can make things quicker or help us with the reimbursements, because we're not employees, as I understand it. Therefore, we're not really in the system to get any money. So the AA would be technically a DOE employee who can get the funding, handled much better and quicker. So that's an issue that there's more issues there that meets the eye. We won't discuss it further, but we need to keep chasing, get the reimbursements.
Okay.
Stop sharing now. We can move on.
Yeah.
Wait, so this is the budget that we are approving?
Yes, we're giving the Councilmember Kwok the opportunity to,
Okay, so.
But he has to submit it, and then we have to convince
Got it. Okay.
DOE
Should we take a
for
vote
their
now?
flexibility.
Should we take a vote now, and I'll keep this up until we finish?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so.
One second, there's Councilmember Hernandez, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, can we vote on this during the working business meeting? Give him time to work on it, and then we could take a look and then vote?
I'm not sure that's allowed, actually. For open meeting.
Well, the motion's out there already. So.
Okay.
The motion to what? Sorry.
Put forward by Councilmember Neal.
Yeah, the motion was to allow 10 to finagle the numbers in those 3 big buckets and submit it with the hopes that the DOE will approve.
It's fine with me.
I would second that.
Yeah, a second. All right, Councilmember Jane.
Yes. Can you just show me a raise of hands? I think everybody's on here.
I think Robin Broshi is not.
No, her hand's up.
Okay, Lily? Good, okay.
Yes.
And Gabriella? Okay.
Gabriella. Yes.
Great, it's unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And thank you, Councilman Kwok. All right, so the next item is the second public speaker session. Councilmember Janey.
Names in.
I don't think we have that many people on the list. Is that correct?
I think it's only 3, but let me just put them in and let me know. I think I got everybody.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Okay, so Tamura is first.
All right, I just need 1 second before I can. All right. Welcome to CECD2 tomorrow. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to say that what Councilmember Kwok said regarding death and hospitalization rates and digging for information on those very private matters is absolutely disgusting and does not belong here in this meeting. And if you're looking at how COVID impacts children, especially Omicron, you would need to look at long haul syndrome. You need to look at how COVID plays out in children like mine, who's missed tons of school, who wasn't immunocompromised before he got COVID in December. So have some integrity as our leaders. Don't discuss things like, I need the numbers on the death rate for D2 to try to push a mask ban through, and look at the children who have been affected by not being in school. I mean, that's the real data, the real research that's there. If you look at the rate of regression for students with disabilities who were remote or hybrid during the pandemic, that loss is real. It's not some made up myth that students are being harmed by masks and their development is being harmed. That hasn't been proven. There's no study that you've shown that has proven any of that, but the data is right in front of you for our students with disabilities, and lots of them aren't even getting the services that they're supposed to get after school. But you know what? You wouldn't know because liaisons aren't doing their job. Nobody's come to my school. Nobody's come to Gavin Healy's school. I mean, you got to show up and do the work. If you're working for parents, you need to work for all parents and all families. And I come here every month. And thank you, Lupe, for finally sticking up for these students. And I appreciate you so much. And I wish others would stick up for these kids too.
Next is Effie Zachary. Ben, did you hear me?
I'm sorry. Welcome,
Effie.
Effie Zachary. Please unmute yourself. My apologies. I was muted. I don't think he's hearing me. All right, we'll come back to him and maybe go to the next one.
Hunter Dare.
Okay. Welcome, Hunter. Please unmute yourself.
Hi. I wanted to speak in the second session about CEC members leaving their cameras off for long periods of time during the meetings. We have an open meetings law, and the spirit of that law is that you show up as CEC members and you sit in front of the public and they're able to see that you're engaged. You guys are our elected leaders. A mom spoke earlier about how Robin Broshi, Councilmember Broshi, hurt her during the last meeting by mocking her on Twitter. And Ms. Broshi didn't even bother to turn on her camera while that mom spoke. And she hasn't had her camera on for virtually the entire meeting. I understand completely that there are times when you need to turn off the camera for short periods. But as our elected leaders, we as the public have the right to see that you are engaged and that you are taking the issues that the public brings to you seriously. So I would ask you in the future, council members, to, for the majority of the time and to the extent that we continue to have Zoom meetings, for you to make yourself available publicly by making yourself visible to the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hunter. Effie again. Welcome, Effie. If you can please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, yeah, sorry, I don't know, couldn't unmute myself before and I couldn't type in the chat, but I can't unmute myself. So I'll just be short. I just want to thank you very much for arranging the town hall with Chancellor Banks. I think it was very successful. We need to do this all over the city for him to engage with parents. I think it was conducted very professionally by all of you. I think all the questions were very good and pertinent. And that's about it. I just want to congratulate you on a job very well done. Thank you.
Another speaker signed up, Gavin Healy.
Okay. Thank you. And will that be the last one? Welcome, Gavin. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So I heard the president of this council say, and I really didn't want to speak tonight after speaking. This is the third time I've spoken against this resolution, but I heard the president of this council say, if there's a new deadly variant, let's put the mask back on. Well, you know, you introduced this resolution 2 times before. The first time was on December 14th, 2021, just before we had news of a new variant. Meanwhile, in less than 2 months, from December 11th, 2021 to January 8th, 2022, there were 91 new cases in my child's District 2 school. That's a school with just 700 students. That was more cases than our school had in the 21 months from March 2020 to December 2021. My own 9-year-old tested positive in January after coming home from his District 2 school. And 6 children under 18 died in our city since the date you first introduced this resolution in December. 3 in January, 3 more just this month, plus another DOE student, one 20-year-old D75 student died in January. So all this is to say, you were wrong in December, and the consequences of you getting this wrong tonight could be very high. Our mayor, Eric Adams, has sensibly put off this decision pending more data. I think you should listen to Mayor Adams and hold off on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe does that conclude?
Yes, no more speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so the next item is vote on resolutions. For the first one will be Resolution 187B. You're having a busy day, Councilmember Kwok. Do you have any amendments that you wanted to introduce to this resolution, or you want to keep it as is?
I posted the amendment in the chat before. I'm like moving around, so I don't know if anyone saw that. It's really saying we urge, therefore, you know, the language that we urge the community or that there's no bullying or stigmatization, and we treat everyone with compassion and understanding who either choose to mask or choose to unmask, based on what they feel or their needs are. So that would be my language. I posted.
I can read here. I have your language here. So it says, therefore, be it resolved, we urge understanding and compassion to families and students who choose to mask or choose not to mask without bullying or stigmatization.
Councilmember Igorov, can you make a copy of that? Because I don't want to lose that.
I just reposted it.
Okay.
This is Jeannie, sorry.
But if you can put a copy that's outside of the Zoom.
Yeah, I will actually copy it in the spreadsheet and make an amendment.
Okay.
And Chen, that's just to be, Jennifer Greenblatt's brought this up in the past. That's the last therefore now?
Councilmember,
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that. Someone was.
That's going to be the new last therefore, correct?
Yes.
It's brought up before. That needs to know where it's placed.
Is there a motion to amend that?
I'll make the motion.
Amend it.
Hey guys, Lupe needs
I was just
her
about to go
phone
to.
number.
What's
Lupe
that?
needs her phone number to get host privileges so that she can vote.
Okay. Let's see. I didn't know where that she dropped off.
I made a motion to amend the resolution, given the new language.
I second it.
Okay, are there any comments before we vote on that?
Okay, so the motion to amend it was seconded.
Can I make a motion, please, to vote on, to approve the resolution 187B as amended?
Second.
Okay, we're going to vote on resolution 187B as amended. Yay, nay, or abstain. Robin Broshi,
No.
Kaushik Das,
Yes.
Daniela Igorov,
Yes.
Lupe Hernandez,
No.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen Kwok,
Yes.
Benjamin Morton,
Yes.
Ushma Neal,
Nay.
Lim Fong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman,
No.
Lily Wu,
Yes.
yes. Gabriela Calabia.
No.
Okay. The motion passes with 7 council member votes.
So now we need to vote on the resolution itself. Make a motion to vote on resolution 187B as amended.
That was my motion, Ben.
That was
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
oh, but did we have a motion?
We did.
We had a motion to amend and we had a motion to vote.
Oh.
It's been a long night.
Okay.
Can I
We
make a
did
motion?
not vote on the amendment, but we just voted on the
Yeah,
resolution.
okay. All right, too much multitasking. Sorry, everyone. So
make
then,
a
a motion to vote, who wants to make a motion on resolution 192?
I'd like to make a motion to, I move for approval of resolution 192 to extend duration of high school waitlist.
I second.
Okay, voting on resolution 192, yay, nay, or abstain. Robin Broshi,
No.
Kushik Das,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
No.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen Kwok,
Yes.
Benjamin Morton,
Yes.
Ushma Neal,
Yes.
Lim Fong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman,
Yay.
Lily Wu,
Yes.
Gabriela Calabia.
Yes.
Okay. The motion passes with 9 council member votes and 1 student vote.
I move for approval of resolution 193 to extend duration of middle school waitlists.
I second.
Okay, voting on resolution 193, yay, nay, or abstain. Robin Broshi,
No.
Kaushik Das,
Yes.
Daniela Igorov,
Yes.
Lupe Hernandez,
No.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen Kwok,
Yes.
Benjamin Morton,
Yes.
Ushma Neal,
Yes.
Lim Fong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman,
Yay.
Lily Wu,
Yes.
Gabriela Calabia.
Yes.
So motion passes, 9 council member votes, 1 student vote.
Okay, and thank you, Councilmember Sim. Then we have resolution 187B, resolution 192, resolution 193 passed and adopted. The next item is the approval of minutes. Is actually the last month's you completed that one. It's too bad we didn't have that as a public document. Councilmember Janey, maybe for next month, if you can just compile a bunch of those, we can just vote on that.
Yes.
Appreciate that. All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Janey. And the next item, number 14, is council member conduct. Councilmember Janey, did you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much. So one of the duties of this council under New York state law is to hold public meetings during which the public may speak so that parents and the community have a voice any public forum to air their concerns. Public council meetings should be a safe space for all parents, students, and school staff members to be heard with respect, and that council members must in particular refrain from disparaging parents in the community or from using their submissions to the council to belittle them. And that if the council fails to do so, it's failing their duties under state law. This council even passed Resolution 183 to support free speech of parents without fear of retribution. We've heard from parents that in the course of the calendar meeting of the Community Education Council scheduled on February 8th, Councilmember Broshi posted a comment on Twitter. "We are not racist. We live in Hell's Kitchen. We will not pull the race card on us. You will not pull the race card on us." A quote from Manhattan parents at a public school board meeting. This meeting was not merely a public school board meeting. It was a meeting of the Community Education Council, of which Councilmember Broshi is a member and at which she was in attendance. The meeting commenced at 6:30 p.m. and was in progress at 8:27 p.m. when Councilmember Broshi posted her tweet. The parent in question was a mother who had come before the council to express her concerns about the acts of violence and bullying that she told the council had been committed against her child in a District 2 school. The trauma caused required her to bring her son to an urgent care center for treatment. Her child was eventually provided a school safety transfer given the untenable situation. Councilmember Broshi's tweet disparaged, belittled, and lacking proper context unfairly summarized the parents' legitimate concerns. As council members, we should refrain from conducting other material activities during the meetings and instead focus on the business before the council. Council members should also refrain from undermining the council's legal duties, which the council sees as to provide a community forum free from intolerance, disparagement, and inappropriate criticism. The council should consider developing bylaws to ensure District 2 CEC members CEC meetings are a safe space for all public participants.
Thank you, Councilmember Sim, for your comments. Are there any comments regarding what Councilmember Sim just said?
I want to say that I agree with Jenny said, and I hope that we continue creating a safe space here for parents to talk about particular bullying and violent issues at schools. We have seen how parents are afraid about talking about that, and I think we should do whatever we can to create a safe space for that.
Councilmember Kwok, you have your hand up.
Sorry, I needed to quiet down the room with my kids. Thank you, Councilmember Janey, for drafting and reading that. I fully agree with what you wrote and expressed. And as the leading author on that freedom of speech for parents without fear of retribution and disparagement, I really am disappointed at Councilmember Broshi for behaving the way she has, and I call on her to change her ways and respect all the families and provide a safe place as you would want if you were trying to get redress for grievances on the education system, school safety, and so forth. We should not be disparaging families. They can criticize us. We've been elected to this job. If we can't handle it, we should resign immediately. We are elected officials, tasked with it as volunteers as we are. So it's not a two-way street. It's a one-way street. We should take the heat as I just did with public comment, and I fully accept it, and I don't have an issue with it. You can have your right to tell me that I was wrong, that I'm disgusting for proposing what I proposed. That is fine. I'm not going to go on social media now and make fun of somebody. That should be our modus operandi and our standard of behavior. And I hope that we all agree to do that. And I suggest I don't know what motion we can do. I make a motion that we have a review of the code of conduct to add this type of measure, that we do not disparage public speakers here outside of this forum. And and also I would say we just say that we raise our hand that we support what Councilmember Janey had just read out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kwok. Councilmember Doss.
Piggyback off of what Chen said, wasn't there, correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps you, Len, or Ushma could remember, wasn't there a motion to add this to something like this to code of conduct last term?
Are you saying to the bylaws?
Yeah, well, sorry, yeah, wasn't there to add to the bylaws a code of conduct that had dealt with this? I believe. Did that?
I think we discussed it, but I don't think we
never did it.
Did it.
I actually tried to get Shino and Maud to work together on that if there was ever a bolder suggestion, but no, it didn't work.
I think it would, I agree with Jen. I think it would be a good idea to incorporate some of those elements into a code of conduct for our bylaws. That I think we have one scheduled, I believe, correct? Before the OML meeting law expires. Whatever, you know what I mean?
That would have to be by April 16th, excuse me, March 16th. So we would have to have by March 15th to schedule a meeting.
We could try to set something up. It's a little tight, but
we
don't have to have we had our bylaws meeting. We had a private bylaws meeting that, but it wasn't private. I mean, we did a virtual meeting, I think, before, I'm wondering if it was even before we were virtual in the last council. I know people were watching. I think we did it via Zoom. Jennifer, do you remember?
I remember. Because Edward Irizarry was president, so it was after.
It may have been even long before COVID, from what I remember.
Fine with me. I think there is, from what I remember with FACE, there is gray area on this, but I think it'd be, while you're at it, we could probably amend the bylaws to say that committee meetings can be done virtually, but whatever. I agree with, I don't know if Chen made a formal motion, but I agree with the concept. I don't want to make a motion right now if there's other people that still want to say something. But
I just want to also just tell you, it's not going to be that clear cut. I mean, a lot of people are going to have to weigh in on this, and there's going to be a lot of disagreement over what constitutes a code of conduct.
Councilmember Kelleher.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you to Councilmember Janey. I also want to say to Olivia, thank you for speaking up at that last meeting and sharing your story. I know it was difficult, and I recall you and your husband being in tears multiple times while sharing this story. I also want to applaud you for coming forward today and speaking up and speaking your truth. And since I don't think we're going to get an apology from anyone else, I'm saying sorry. I'm sorry for the conduct that we all witnessed in the CEC District 2 meeting. It was during the meeting, and I'm sorry that it happened, and I hope it never happens again. And I hope that your son doesn't see the tweets, and I hope that the victim shaming stops.
Councilmember Igorov.
I just want to clarify because I saw some comments here in the chat. So this is not a resolution. Jane is just reading a statement. So it's a free country. People can say whatever they want, and we can say that we disagree with what was said. So this is not a resolution to prevent anybody from saying anything. We are just saying that we don't support this behavior, and if parents come forward, they might be disparaged by somebody here, but definitely you have other council members who will support you.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Thank you. Item 15, new business for council. Anyone with new business?
Hold on. There was a.
Oh, for regards to the bylaws? Is that what you?
Yes, I said I wanted to make a motion to add it to our bylaws, but
well,
I wanted everyone a chance to speak.
I think you need to. I'd have to have a bylaws meeting first.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
Okay.
Answer the bylaws.
But if you want, I did look at the calendar. If you want to structure, if you want to have a bylaws meeting via remote, you would have to have it. You would have to inform me by Thursday to have it for November 15th, for March 15th.
All right, I'll talk to you about that. And I just don't want to have a meeting unless, a lot of people can attend.
Oh, sure.
Sorry to ask a question out of order. Are all of our committee meetings going to have to be in person after March 16th, or is there going to be a provision to allow like students in temporary housing or admissions committee meetings to occur virtually?
Well, I was going to bring that up in the business meeting. But I don't know if Michelle Chang is still on because she's the one to answer that. Michelle Chang, are you still with us?
I'm here. Sorry, I don't have a raise hand function, so I mean,
I'll make sure you co-host.
I don't think it's on your end. I think something's wrong with my computer. So I asked legal before if a CEC does have in their bylaws that committee meetings are, continue on virtually or anything else. If that would then supersede state law if the suspension on meeting remotely was discontinued, and they told me no, that still state law is going to supersede. So if that executive order ends, committee meetings do have to be in person as well. So then there really isn't a point to changing the bylaws. I was also just about to type in the chat, changing the bylaws always takes at least 2 calendar meetings. So it'll just be a slow process anyways. We are trying to talk more with state about just extending the remote meetings indefinitely, but ultimately that's up to the governor.
Michelle, may I ask you a question? Why does, I agree with you in the open meeting laws issue, but why does a committee meeting trigger open meeting law, especially when most committee meetings don't, well, the bylaws committee may, but most other committee meetings don't involve more than 5 committee members?
It's a good question. Legal gave me the response on that a long time ago. It has to do with just it has to be publicly posted, and it goes through a lot of the same public notice requirements too. I'm gonna mess up the answer, so I'll look into it and get back to you, but I remember them saying that committee meetings would have to be under that umbrella of it depends on what the executive order says.
Because that's fine. Well, the answer is going to get back to us, but I thought there were, and could you clarify if this is a legal opinion versus it's really encoded in state law? Because I think in the past when we asked these questions, there is a distinction. A legal opinion we don't have to agree with and can ignore if we have a different legal opinion, and something that's enshrined in state law is something different. But all for another time. Thank you.
I'll ask.
Councilmember Doss, did you want to make a motion on anything then, or?
Then, unless I'm missing something, other council members, and then no.
Okay. All right, thank you. And Councilmember Neal, I hope that answered your question on.
Thank you. Sorry, I spoke out of turn there.
No.
Fine.
All right, so we'll consider it new business. So is there any other new business that council members would like to put forward? If that's the case, then I'd like to make a motion to move to adjourn this meeting and start the working business meeting.
Second.
Okay, so Councilmember Janey, how do you like to vote on this? Just hands raised, or?
You can just go all in favor. That's it.
Well, she does like to. All right, is that all right? All in favor?
We don't need a
Please raise-
formal.
You don't need a roll call vote for an
Roll
adjournment.
call vote. Yeah, you can just go all in favor. It's fine.
All right, we have a majority. Okay. So, Councilmember Janey, can we do a roll call for the business meeting?
Sorry, I lost my spreadsheet. Okay. In roll call for the working business meeting. Robin Broshi.
Here.
Kaushik Das. I see Kaushik.
Here, sorry.
Daniela.
Here.
Lupe.
Here.
Robin Kelleher.
Here.
Chen Kwok.
Here.
Benjamin Morton.
Here.
Ushma Neal.
Here.
Lim Pang Sim is here. Leonard Silverman.
Present.
Lily Wu.
Here.
And Gabriela Calabia.
Here.
Okay, everybody's present. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Janey. Are there any liaison updates? We kind of got one earlier from Councilmember Kelleher, PS 33, but are there any other ones? Nope. Oh, Councilmember Neal.
So last Thursday, Ben and I joined Jennifer Greenblatt and Kelly McGuire at 75 Morton and had a fairly extensive tour. We were also there for a transition between classes and saw how things worked, saw the safety officers, got to also spend a significant amount of time with their two coordinators for restorative justice and the circles that they had, and then spent a good 20 minutes with the principal and assistant principals talking to them about the events of the fall and more recent, and hearing about their progress and what their plans are for the future in terms of that school community. I have to say, very satisfied with the quality of the facility, the offerings that they had, and their approach. I note that they also have a number of school security officers and are taking many, many steps towards trying to make sure that that school community is a safe and a happy one. I don't know if you have other reflections, Ben, to add.
No, thank you. But I would like to, our superintendent, I don't think he's on at this moment, but I'd like to thank Superintendent Kelly McGuire and Jennifer Greenblatt thank you for arranging the meeting. I had not been to 75 Morton. I learned a lot during that.
I'm sorry, what happened?
I learned a lot during that meeting about the school and saw some fantastic facilities as well. And what we saw was well-behaved students engaged in classrooms. And I hope Superintendent McGuire is considering making more arrangements so we can visit more schools. And sorry, losing my voice here. I hope that we can do that in the future, because I think that's very enlightening, and especially now that COVID cases are lower. I think it's worthwhile for having these types of meetings going forward. I haven't done that in the past because of COVID. But all right, but thank you, Councilmember Neal.
Let me just add, I was in speaking with one of the co-heads of their PTA earlier, who has said, the increased presence of the school safety officers has had a palpable impact there as well.
Thank you. And if there are any other liaison updates, I'll move to the next item. New requests for council correspondence and public notices. I assume Councilmember Lupe Hernandez, you're going to make a request for a notice for your meeting coming up. You might have to have it in a school unless you were planning that already.
I was not, but I will get the details to you as soon as possible. Thanks, Ben.
Is anyone else? All right. Are there any council members who would like to share the resolutions and or letters that they're working, developing? Nope. All right. Well, this is always an opportunity. So if a way to work with others and collaborate. The next item is calendar updates. There will be at our next meeting on April 12th, whether it's remote or in person, we'll be meeting with the DOE about the fiscal year 2023 school budget allocation formulas. So beware of that. If there's any presentation material beforehand, I will forward it to you all. All right. The sixth item was the OML discussion on the plan for cessation of remote meetings. We already heard from Michelle Chang. Unless anyone else has some questions on that, Councilmember Hernandez.
Regarding committee meetings, are we typically having these at the local liaison schools, or how do we decide which school that we would be using for a committee meeting? And maybe that's a question for Michelle. I apologize.
Well, actually, I think that's a fantastic question, because can we use the space that we used to use on 7th Avenue?
That was what the space I was familiar with. So that's, I wasn't sure if that was available to us.
I can certainly ask. I think in the past, the AA would typically like book the space, but I can try to reach out to the space manager and see if that would be usable.
Okay,
And then space hasn't been open for meetings yet. So it may be changing, but it hasn't been open.
It's not a very big space from what I recall either. Right, Jennifer?
No, if you want to put it in the conference room at 333, it's a large space. You could fit 70 people in there.
Okay,
and then getting 70 people, but
that's a good sized space, yeah.
And Michelle, we could contact you in order to secure it. And how much time do you need in advance?
I mean, I would respond to one of your emails, same day. I think it's just a question of, I don't actually know who the space manager is at 333, so I might end up having to, ask Jennifer, ask other people. And I just don't know what that building's protocols are, because I'm at Tweed. So if it's not even open, well, then they would say no, but some buildings require like 2 weeks notice.
And then, so if that space is not available, how do we go about choosing a school?
You would contact the school directly. So usually you would go through, I just contact the principal usually.
Okay, and then it's okay for us to do that, or I know typically it'd be the AA, but in our case, we don't have an AA, so.
Yes, you can make the direct contact, loop me in if you're not getting a response. The one thing to note about, I guess, schools would be that you have to show proof of vaccination, so that might be limiting to some parents.
Understood. Okay, and we're writing our legislators to, really push for them to extend our open meetings law, but in the case that they don't, I just want to be prepared. Thank you.
Councilmember Neal?
I wanted to ask you a question of fellow council members. If I was to try and propose, if we were meeting in person in April, if anybody would be able to meet like 45 minutes before the start of our meeting to have a committee meeting, just so that we're all already going there, or do people's work and personal calendars clash there? Like, is that one means by which we can host some of these meetings, is doing it in the 45 minutes before a calendar meeting?
You're suggesting like at 5:45 to meet?
Correct.
The only issue that I would see with that is that we would have to have, if we're going to stream it, we would have to have things set up and either even earlier, assuming the school lets us too.
Right.
And if we're not streaming, I don't, it
I mean,
just might be some logistic issues.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We never had the requirement to stream our committee meetings before, did we? So
No, but it would be for the calendar setup.
yeah, right. But I mean, if there was a separate room or other way of hosting that meeting in advance.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, just as a pilot to try it next time, what I would propose is if we are going to be in person in April, I would ask anybody, I would probably try and have the Students in Temporary Housing Committee meeting 45 minutes before the start of the calendar meeting. If anybody would want to join me, that's going to be my plan.
If Michelle Chang, if you're still on, I just have a quick question. Should we make arrangements for the school now, even if we don't know if it's going to be extended or not, in your view, or and just cancel it, or for the calendar meeting, or yeah? Okay.
I think that's a good idea. I haven't seen other councils do that yet, but we know how tough it can be to book a school sometimes.
Yeah,
so
yeah. All right, so I will try to book something and get back to everyone so you'll know when the date is, and I'll ask if there's availability to meet beforehand in in a classroom for a committee meeting. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions regarding planning for remote, the end of remote meetings? Okay, well, this was a administrative assistant updates. Lupe Hernandez, if you wanted, the council member, if you want to talk to that, or council member Janey, please.
Certainly. I actually had tried to raise my hand before I had one other thing about open meetings law. I am picking up the OWL tomorrow. I think Ushma mentioned that. And are we still going to consider providing a hybrid option for that next meeting? And if so, we may want to, I know we've allocated funds and we have the funds there to purchase the second one, but it might be something that we want to discuss before the meeting.
Can we look into this on March 16th when we know if there will be remote meetings or not, which is just next week? Is that all right? And then we can just email about that.
Okay.
The other thing is we would need to know who would want to work together in creating a hybrid meeting, in terms of, like, I assume you're talking about streaming, or you're talking about Zoom.
Correct. Either or, and that's why I brought it up to hear from council members to see where. I know we've spoken about this before, and
Councilmember Kwok has done a lot of research into this. I don't want to speak for him.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to attend to my family right now, so I'll try to rejoin as soon as I can. If it's still on.
All right.
okay. AA.
Yeah.
Oh, no, actually, I had my hand raised. So I think for the hybrid, I'm not familiar with Meeting Owl. I think part of it is how easy it is. Like, I think part of it, if it's something that, I think you and Ushma mentioned that Meeting Owl is great for these hybrid meetings. I've never used it. So it might be easy for some people and not easy for others. So I think part of it is figuring out if the logistics are really that easy. Because I know the way we were doing it the other way was, one, not easy and not working very well.
Right.
So, but you said you're going to pick it up, right? So I'll do a little bit of research to see if I can educate myself on it, and maybe we can put our heads together.
I believe we also submitted, and if not, I can send it again to the council, a video that shows exactly how it works. It was really, yeah, it'll give you a lot of information just in that one video.
I'm trying to find it now. I know Sean sent it to us.
Yeah, I was looking for it, as I was also looking for it, but.
Is it a new Meeting Owl, or yeah? Okay, well, that's nice. All right, so who wants, was there someone who wanted to speak to the administrative assistant, or?
Yes, unfortunately, we were notified by Michelle that The candidate did not take the offer. So I think Janie and I said that we were going to send Michelle the one other candidate that we interviewed and wait to hear from her to see if she'd be willing to accept the position as well. And in the interim, I will continue to look at resumes, and I'm sure Janie, and I can't speak for Daniela, but that's the plan, that we just continue to start looking in case we need to do more interviews.
If I could just make one note that we did offer the candidate the maximum amount that we could offer. So it's not in terms of funds. I don't know what their decision making, but we did make the maximum offer. So
it was also just made aware to us today at our check-in that the applications is basically citywide, and it's possible there's people that may be submitting an application for a specific district, and if we're seeing it and we interview, we don't know. I know there was a few cover letters that specified what district they were actually applying for, and I was confused as to why we were receiving them, but apparently it's just one big pool, so that it could be location in case we go back to meeting in person.
Anybody else want to make a comment on administrative assistance position? All right. Any new business? Wow, this may be the first since July. All right. Then I make a motion to move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Yep, we got a third here. All in favor? Yes. Good night.
Hey, good night. We're done finally. Thank you. Good night.
Thank
you,
you
everyone.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
My family thanks you.
Wow.